Hey, so following on from my last vlog, there were a few things that I left out that I want to address in this video. Also as a side note, because I've been mucking around with my audio system, I know we had a little bit of distortion going on, so hopefully I've smoothed that out, but we'll find out. Anyway, no, the things that I want to address now is, I realize lately I've criticized my parents a lot. I do want to give them some credit though, because I think that I am seeing some like real change. Um, Now I know what some of you will say is like, yeah, what about the glass child trauma thing? Because I think the glass child trauma does tend to make me more forgiving and like kind of defend them just by default. I'm keeping that in mind, and I do think it's beyond that. It's not just me making excuses for them. The other thing you might raise is, didn't you just have COVID, and so they're all worried about your physical health? Yes, that's true as well. But there have been some things that make me think, there might be some progress happening. So one of them is like, I mentioned my dad came to therapy recently, and that was incredibly stressful. I think that level of stress is part of why my immune system got so screwed up, and I was susceptible to COVID and also had my mouth ulcer thing recur. But even though, like, in the session, some of the things he said and the attitude, just made me feel kind of awful. I think since then he's had time to think about it, and it's also like shown him different things. And I think while he was in the session, like, it's his first time, as far as I know, really going to any kind of therapy. I could be wrong, but um, I don't think he really knew how to behave in the situation, and also like in the group kind of thing. And they have, like, my parents have come to some of my psychology sessions in the past, but it's quite different because I didn't understand what my problems really were, and those psychologists were no good. But this time, like, we're actually addressing some real issues. And yeah, I think some of his natural defensiveness kicked in, and so he wasn't showing a whole lot, and a lot of it to me came across as criticism. But later, I saw the first signs early on of concern. At first, I was kind of wary because he does go through these cycles of like initially being defensive and lashing out if something is like too difficult, or something that he doesn't want to address, or sort of feeling criticized, he might lash out before he's actually thought about what is actually being said. And then once his brain catches up, then he'll go through a guilt cycle and sort of be really chill, and then go back to neutral, and then that sort of resets the cycle, so something else comes up and he'll do the defensive lashing out thing again, and then go back through the guilt thing. So, at first I was like, that's just what this is. I was being kind of wary about that. But, yeah, then I went through the COVID, and he was sort of checking on me a lot, and I thought that was guilt plus concern for my physical health, because I haven't been that sick in a long time. But since I've recovered and I've sort of like, interacted with my parents more, there are some things that came up that made me thought, yeah, okay. So like one of them, the first thing that came up is they're actually looking at getting an afternoon carer now, which is something I suggested to Mum a while back, but she had one of those rare moments of getting quite angry at me because, I don't know, she saw it as kind of a selfish thing on my part. But in therapy, like I brought up that one, and I explained how, like, I get that she probably sees it as selfish. Mum didn't come, by the way. I get that she sees it that way, but I've actually thought about a bigger picture, and it's not just that it helps me in terms of, like, keeping him under control so that he stays awake later. Because when he had COVID, it messed up his sleep cycle a bit, and it hasn't really gone back to normal. So to stop him from waking up at 4:30 in the morning and really screwing me up, we now keep him awake later. So then he wakes up at his normal sort of 5:36 kind of time frame. But because he's, out and up and awake and complaining a lot later, it is frustrating. And so I think she sort of joined the dots in terms of, if he stays up later, it's better for me. So that's why I'm asking for the afternoon carer. But it's not just that, because I can see, like, he's so annoying, my little brother, when he's complaining. I can see my parents not really coping with that, and they're getting older, and like, at the moment they give him showers and stuff, but there's going to be a point where they won't be able to physically handle that. So, like, better to get someone set up sooner rather than later, and, it helps all of us. And then, when my cousin was here from Japan, we saw how happy he was having someone from outside the family to just spend some time with him. He loves attention. So it's good for me, it's good for my parents, it's good for my little brother, it's also good for the person getting the job, probably. So, like everyone wins. There's no downside, especially if we have the funding. And I explained that, and like in the session, Dad still, said how it seemed selfish or whatever. And I'm like, but I think while I was sick, they've clearly talked about it. And then I think maybe it was yesterday, I was out yesterday, so, but yeah, I think they might have like talked to someone about it, and they're trying to organize something for maybe one day a week. We'll see how that goes. So that's like a bit of progress. But I guess that's kind of like more practical stuff. There was another day where I can't remember what we were talking about. I would have to check my psych diary. If I didn't have that psych diary, it would be so hard for me to remember anything. But yeah, no, we were talking about something, and I think Dad was asking about my health, and I mentioned something about my mouth ulcers and how it's connected to stress, and we were talking about that, and because I get stressed a lot, I get a lot of mouth ulcers, although not always as bad as that. And yeah, I mentioned something about like my terrible mental health, and he actually hugged me. Like I wasn't showing upset, but he actually hugged me. Like we don't hug a lot in this family. We don't do a lot of the physical contact, which to me seems normal because I've grown up with it, but in hindsight and like thinking what I know about psychology now and kids and development and so on, physical contact within a family is actually kind of important. So I wasn't expecting that, and then like, he was showing like some more genuine signs of care, and it's like it really took me by surprise. I was not feeling good that day, so I didn't really hug back, but I sort of noted it as this is unusual. So that's something there. And then just in general, I feel like my parents are cutting me a bit more slack in terms of like, like over time I've found it harder to contribute around the house. I do my cleaning on Sunday, and when I have the energy, I try and vacuum more of the house than just my room. If I'm really doing badly though, I just do my room. But yeah, like I do most of the ground floor. Other than that though, like, after dinner, like, cleaning kitchen stuff, it's hard. I think I've got this theory, I'm developing this theory that after I've eaten, a lot of the blood flows going to my stomach to process the food, and I'm like very sensitive to things in my body. So that might be why I have like less energy after I've eaten those big dinner meals, and maybe that's where some of the blood pressure issues, like, standing up too fast, and I start to feel a little bit lightheaded once I get up. I think some of that has gotten a bit more difficult, but also like with my mood, it's just, yeah, it's hard for me to properly contribute in that area, and they're just sort of cutting me more slack if I don't feel like I can help more. Sort of also with Mikey and all that, and like, there are things that I dropped the ball on, like trying to find Hope's dog poos out in the grass in the yard. My eyesight's not great, and that's also a lot of bending down and standing up, and so I feel lightheaded, and so I don't pick up his poo in the backyard as much as I should, and they just like haven't criticize me so much for that. So I do give them credit for that. I think they're starting to get more of a feel for like just how screwed up I am. They only really took my mental health seriously from about 2016, but it's been a real journey because I think they still don't understand a lot. But now that Dad's been to therapy and he's seen like how upset I am, and some of the things that we mentioned there, I feel like maybe there is a bit more understanding and a bit more progress in terms of, yeah, just all that kind of stuff. And I have been getting worse with my mental health as time has gone on, which is frustrating. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's something there. And Dad is going to come to my next therapy session. Like, I talked to my psychologist, and I haven't told them this actually, but one of the things that we're probably going to do to try and manage my stress levels is, instead of having him in the room for the entire session, we'll have some time at the end where it's just me and the psychologist to sort of debrief, so we don't have like last time where we kind of just ended and then I had to go into the bathroom and like get my shit together. I was in a really bad way. And I didn't go home with Dad. I spent some time just on my own wandering around the place and getting some McDonald's. So yeah, if we manage that a little bit better in therapy, hopefully it'll be okay. And then my parents are going away for a bit when the next time would be due. So I'm not sure how often we're going to do this. And there's been talk of like getting an actual family therapist, but I'm reluctant to start with someone new because then I have to explain to them the whole thing. And I mean, it's been hard enough to get the psychiatrist on board with the schizoid thing. So kind of don't want to do that. Anyway, so wow, 10-minute ramble trying to give my parents some credit because, yeah, I do think it's more than just me making excuses and the usual patterns. So that's a thing. Another thing, okay, so like with COVID, I've actually seen a friend on Facebook. He was posting about like, his gym progress and then he got sick and he lost all his gym progress. And this is a dude. Dudes have testosterone, so they can build muscle in a way that I can't. And I'm a bit concerned about my own strength because, I mean, on top of being female, I'm also just like small built. And when I look at my brother, not my disabled brother, my other brother, he's quite strong. He works out at the gym and all that, but he's still kind of small. And so he would play things like rugby, which are really full on physical sport, and just get injured because he's so much smaller than the other guys. And so, like, I feel like even if you pumped me full of testosterone, ain't nothing happened with these tiny arms, which are conveniently hidden by the hunten. But, yeah. And so it's making me a little bit concerned about, like, yeah, going back to my bonsai job because already my body has complained that physically I might not be cut out for, like, big bags of soil and raking the shit out of the root systems and all that. And I think the most concerning thing in terms of my strength is when I tried to water my own bonsai. I haven't worked on my own bonsai all year either, which is really bad of me. I was in such a good routine and then, I don't know, my mental health just went to shit and I haven't been able to sit down. I mean, the cold weather hasn't helped. It's been really weirdly cold this year in Sydney. Like, even in autumn, never mind winter. So that doesn't help. But, like, I missed all my autumn work. And I'm probably gonna miss most of the winter work as well. I need to figure out what's the most urgent. But yeah, like, after having COVID, I it had been a bit dry and I hadn't been watering them, so I'm like, I better water my plants. And I had to take a break from holding the hose. Like, yeah, I've got a lot of plants, but usually I could do them all in one go. And it's just like, about halfway through, I was like, I'm so tired just standing here with the hose, like, going from plant to plant. It was exhausting. And so I'm just a bit like, if I can't even, I mean, I think I'm doing a little bit better than that. The second time that I, got the hose out, I lasted a bit longer, but I was still like, wow, my arm is getting really tired. So, hopefully as I get better, I mean, my voice is mostly back. I've been mucking with my voice today, though, so I think you can probably hear a bit of the tiredness going on. But, yeah, like, I'm hoping as I fully recover, like, the muscles will come back a bit more, but there's just not much there to begin with, and then I've had a week of sickness. I'm a little bit concerned about the strength there. I don't remember how that ties into my previous vlog, because that was all over the place as well, but that's just an extra COVID-related thing, I guess. Another COVID-related thing, so I mentioned, how my brother Mike, my disabled brother, his sleep pattern changed after he had COVID, so he started waking up at 4:30, and we had to shift his entire routine back. I was hoping that COVID would help my sleep in a similar way, but it hasn't panned out like that. But I think what I've been noticing, I think since COVID, if I go to bed earlier, I might wake up a few times in the middle of the night, but I'll actually get back to sleep. That is kind of a big deal. Now, there have been some nights where I stayed up until 2 a.m. and then I would get to sleep, but then I'd wake up later and not be able to get back to sleep. But, now if I go to bed before midnight, it seems to help. Because previously when I tried to go to bed early, I just wouldn't sleep. And it would suck. Last night was a little bit different because I went to bed before midnight, but I was still awake at 2 a.m. I think my brain was just processing a lot of deathcore. I binged a deathcore, Darko US, their entire YouTube channel, and reading their lyrics and stuff. And I think my brain just had too much going on and was trying to write lyrics for one of these projects that I'm trying to get involved with. So I think too much going on in my brain. But once I did sleep, no, actually, I was sort of in and out of sleep, but the interesting thing, I guess, even with that crappy sleep, as the night went on, or technically the morning at that point, like the patchiness of the sleeping was getting less and less, and so I was sleeping for longer and longer between waking up. And then when the house got noisy, I think I didn't hear most of it again today, which is kind of unusual. Like in the past, any noise just wakes me up. So I'm hoping this sticks. I'm hoping like COVID may not have shifted my like waking up so much, but I feel like I'm sleeping better as long as I get to bed before midnight. So gotta be careful how I make these videos. So I'll post this one tomorrow, but yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. The one thing that isn't so good is that even though I go to bed earlier, I'm still waking up at 11 a.m. So if I went to bed, say, at 11 p.m., I'm spending 12 hours in bed, but I feel like I'm not actually getting the full energy or benefit from it yet. So I don't know if that's like leftover COVID recovery, and maybe once I'm completely better, I'll go back to my usual, like, being woken up too easily problem. I'm not really sure, but like it's just frustrating that I am getting more sleep, but I'm not waking up any earlier. I'm not feeling any more energized. I think I'm not feeling as tired, although I have written in my psych diary that I have been tired. So I don't know. Probably I've just rambled a bunch of shit, but I'm trying to observe, has my sleep pattern changed since COVID? I'm thinking maybe. I feel like I am sleeping through more noise than I used to, and that's something. What else? Oh, in terms of like life goals. So like, yeah, I've got two possible music projects that are sort of tentatively, I'm not going to count either of them as an actual project until like the wheels actually move and I meet people in person and we actually like lock things in. Until that point, they're just like, because, you know, so far most things that have been like this, they don't move ahead and it's really frustrating. So that's why I've still got my solo project in mind. And I mentioned I mentioned like maybe trying to turn it into more of a band kind of thing. You might have to watch my Stardew live stream to get a picture. But like basically, so I could get people with guitars, bass, drums, maybe. Guitars is the main thing that I can't do myself, that I can't replicate in software so easily. If I get a guitarist and I play live, when I'm writing music that has guitars, I need to make sure that I record the guitars so I can put them in my backing track, and then I can like still perform the band music but solo. So then I can sort of have the solo and the band stuff. And it's still all my project. I know it's chaotic, but that's me. I'm chaotic. So sometimes I do solo, sometimes I do band. Maybe it's a bit Nine Inch Nails like. I don't know. But yeah, like, so apart from that, I was also thinking, like, even if I just keep it as a solo project, never mind the band stuff, what if I tried to take my solo project more seriously? And I started thinking about, like, what if I tried to do, like, a proper music video? Like, I know I did with Klawi, with Schism, I did sort of like a home music video kind of thing, which was kind of like a fusion of a lyric video and me just filming things in here and editing them together in a really chaotic way, which took way too long. I'm not going to do that again. But like, you know, maybe if I got one of those video companies and got like, you know, talk to a director or something, because like the next song that I have to release for my solo project is I actually really like it. I still need to re-record vocals and do a few things, but you know, I could get it properly mixed and then I could take it to like a videographer and be like, hey, I want to do a music video of this. what can you do for me? How much would it cost? It would be expensive, but I'm thinking if there's that expense, and if I'm working with someone in that sense, not necessarily a band, but in a video sense, would that help me, like, actually get on top of it some more? This might be another one of those crazy ideas, but yeah, just sort of thinking about ways to get back into my solo project more if these other band projects don't actually go anywhere. Maybe that's something that I could do. I do need to get back into gigging that if I'm going to be making music videos, so I need to get out and about. To that there is an open mic that I know of that I want to check out, and then maybe I'll book in to perform. But because yeah, I just don't feel comfortable with the industrial scene at this point. I need to. It just doesn't feel like I want to be in metal. But if I can't be in metal, maybe I just terrorize open mics. I don't know, we'll see. So that's a thought. And then another one is, okay, for like mental health and fitness as well. One of my goals is I need to try and get out of the house at least once a week. And I'm not talking about walking my dog. I mean like actually getting out of the house. So at the moment I'm going to count therapy appointments and like doctor's appointments as getting out of the house. But I only have therapy like once a fortnight, and I try and get psychiatry on the same day because they're in, just the next suburb over. With my GP appointments, those are sort of like kind of random. It depends on when I need something, and like whether I'm due for some kind of checkup or whatever. But I usually see her roughly once a month or once every 2 months. So there are weeks where I don't have anything. And I'm thinking like, I really need to try to get out of the house once a week somehow. So this week, yesterday, I went out with a friend. We went and got Nando's. I had a Nando's coupon. Nando's helps me get out of the house. And especially when there's a coupon and I only had a week to use it. So yay, free chips. Nando's should pay me to promote them. Oh my God. Yeah, or like, so that was an easy one because we just went into the city. City's easy to get to, but I should really like try to go to a gig on those free weeks or just something. Just to like keep some kind of momentum so that like I know my instinct is to just stay home and not be social, but I know like for my recovery and to try and like, function in society, I have to be able to do that more. So that's a goal I have. And then eventually, this is much more long term, but if I wanted to get, what is it that TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation for depression, to be able to do that, I'd have to get out of the house at least 3 times a week. Usually 5 times a week, especially if I want it over and done with quickly, but 3 times a week when I look at the website and read through like what's required. So eventually, like, if I can get out once a week, and then sort of once I get that down, then maybe I try and make it twice a week. Or like, on the days that I have appointments, the weeks that I have appointments, try and get out another day on that week. And then make it proper twice a week. And then build up to 3 times a week. Then maybe... this is going to take a long time, I think. But if I can get up to that stage, then maybe I could seriously consider TMS. I don't know if it's really applicable to my situation. Because I think like with my mental health, a lot of it has to do with still being in the sort of glass child trauma kind of world, and like, not having things like a band to sort of, give me some kind of purpose, maybe. I think like, there's more those like life situation issues that affect my mental health. And I'm sort of like, is it really biological for me? I know my previous psychiatrist thought so, but he didn't know about the like childhood trauma issues because I was in such denial that I just didn't tell him any of this stuff. So, like, do I really need the medication? I think the main thing that I might need medication for is motivation. And since I can't take medication, would TMS help with motivation? I'm not sure. I probably need to do a bit more research. But I guess, like, if I get to a point where I can leave the house meaningfully 3 times a week, if I get to that point and I'm still struggling with a lot of mood issues and a lot of motivation and some of the darker stuff that goes along with all that, if I'm still struggling really badly, but I am able to leave the house, then maybe I should at least try TMS. But that's a long way off. I'm yeah, I'm not getting my hopes up about that. I mean, there's so much that does rely, I think, on my situation changing. I guess, there are some bands potentially in the pipeline, and also my parents do seem to be making some kind of meaningful change. So, maybe there is like some possibility for me to get places faster, but I feel like a lot of this is outside my control, and so I can't really say, yeah, I'm going to be able to do this in the next year. I'm like, yeah, no, good luck. So that's just a thing that I thought I'd add. A goal: get out of the house once a week. I'm already getting out of the house like once every 2 weeks because I have appointments. I just need to like now add the extra week and try and make it sustainable and try and get like some kind of energy and motivate myself in some way. It's difficult though. So that's why it's a goal and not like some kind of requirement for myself. Anyway, that's 25 minutes. I think I'm done, and I just not care about whether I left anything out this time. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I film these things and I'm like, why did I even bother? But hey, it's filmed now. It's gonna go on the YouTubes, and there's nothing they can do to stop me. Join my cult and stuff. Bye.